Hello, and welcome back to my small part of the universe. My name is Hailstone. Today we'll be examining a creature that just recently dropped from the void, the Lithophage from Deep Rock Galactic. So please, sit back, relax, and let us begin. The Lithophage is among one of the most bizarre entities I have ever seen. While it is indeed some form of scourge or plague, I do not believe it is a virus, at least under normal terms, as viruses themselves are not considered living beings and are nothing more than an inert piece of DNA or RNA until something they need brushes past them and they then latch on in order to reproduce. If they can, that is. Yet, this doesn't seem to be the case with the Lithophage, as it has already produced an organic, almost cocoon-like structure, usually after impact, and once ample material has been assessed, it begins to slowly spread around its environment. The Lithophage does this by producing what I could only describe as a string-like algae and quickly spreading a bacterial mat onto the surrounding minerals and other surfaces. As it spreads, bright yellow boils will eventually begin to grow and are integrated into the very survival of the main core of the Lithophage, as any damage incurred from them causes severe trauma to the entire organism. Additionally, unlike a virus, the Lithophage will slowly yet actively respond to anything that treads upon its affected area. Once something has gained enough of its attention, tendrils will slowly reach out and entangle the prey, which will begin the process of infecting the organism, in this case glyphids, and injecting them with a localized infection, growing yellow boils and active rock pox across the body, programming it to protect and lash out at anything threatening the local infection. The Lithophage also seems to store a certain carnivorous parasite that it will release as a more mobile form of infection. Glyphids infected by rockpox have had their minds radically altered as well as their bodies. Their bodies have overall been made tougher and more numb to damage, and their internal workings have been altered to now house infectious breath attacks, at least in the case of the Praetorians. Though tougher than common glyphids, they now have a critical weakness in the yellow boils, which, once a number of them have been destroyed across their body, it will cause a massive trauma throughout the organism, usually resulting in death, much like that of the main Lithophage core. The Lithophage seems to take in nutrients from the surrounding minerals and soil it had spread to, draining the natural hard rock of a place like the crystalline caverns, and once the Lithophage is dead, the landscape left behind is effectively brittle and broken, taking only one swipe of a pickaxe to cause significant damage to the once hard rock. Stages of the Lithophage. There is a certain amount of strangeness that entails the impact of these infected meteorites. Normally, one would only impact a surface and leave a crater, and ultimately that would be the end of it. But it almost seems intentional that this infected fragment has even penetrated this deep into the crust of a planet, which may indicate a far more complex interplanetary infection process. Maybe when one planet becomes completely infected, it throws off chunks of its mass to be set adrift into space until it either crosses or rams into another planet ripe for infection. After impact for an undetermined amount of time, the plague cores will remain within the meteorite, quite possibly due to the heat and scalding hot surface the event generated, which has interesting implications for how the interior of the rock is kept cool and the hearts aren't burned to a crisp. Eventually, the Lithophage will break open the meteoroid and begin slowly spreading and infecting the surrounding terrain. The main mode of transmission for this stage are small blue spores that emanate from the plague's hearts, which then take hold of surrounding terrain and local fauna if able. As the infection progresses, it will eventually hit its most active state. At this point, the infection covers a sizable area with vines and something akin to bacterial mats covering the floor. Within this local infection, several specialized structures have grown, most notably glowing yellow cores of the rockpox, and the gestating or at least holding pods of infected parasites. These infected parasites are used to quicken the infection, taking on glyphid hosts that stray too close. As well, the main heart of the infection has become something almost like a spiky, bloomed flower with several fleshy vines reaching onto nearby surfaces. During this stage of infestation, the Lithophage seems to hold on to glyphids within the infected rockpox substrate, emerging when the infection has become subject to damage or is somehow threatened. These infected glyphids are unique from the lithophage they emerged from, as unlike when the core of an infection dies, the entire substrate/infected rock goes with it. Yet, this does not occur with the infected glyphids, meaning they contain their own localized versions of the infestation. Instead of some link to the lithophage in some form of quantum manner, the lithophage may control the glyphids through either implanted commands before they are released, or they are controlled through pheromones via modified spores. Side notes on the lithophage substrate. As stated before, once the lithophage is cleansed, the entirety of its local biome has become incredibly brittle, quite possibly due to critical elements being removed from it to feed the lithophage. But before a biome has died, while the rock and stone itself has become very brittle, the lithophage, while active, reinforces the terrain with its long roots or vines, giving the terrain very strange properties, as during field research it was discovered that the terrain boosted with lithophage vines has incredible kinetic resilience, able to withstand the strongest munitions available to drillers. Yet, when the infection is dead, this kinetic resistance is then lost, meaning the substrate only has this property when the lithophage roots are present. Though while it does have some form of explosive immunity, the material still easily falls to piercing like that of the arms core coil gun and the tearing and slashing of a normal pickaxe and drills. What is the lithophage, ultimately? At a glance, I would think that the lithophage is something akin to a colonial organism, like that of a siphonophore, more so than being an actual virus that is infecting the very stone itself, with many specialized microscopic creatures, so to say, that act on the behalf of the main core, spreading with vine-like structure and covering the terrain with organic mats that suck the very life out of the rock and stone, in order to facilitate the spread and growth of new lithophage cores. Thank you for watching another one of my videos. The lithophage has proven to be quite the interesting subject, and I've been wanting to get into Deep Rock Galactic for a little while now in terms of lore, and I felt like this was the perfect chance to do so. Anyway, thank you for listening, and please have a great, intriguing next week.